On today's show, it's a Stanley Cup Playoffs game day preview. The Ottawa Senators hoping to bounce back in Game 2 against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
We take a look at both teams' lineups and the question, which Sens star players need to step up?
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Tuesday, April 22nd, and for 13 Ottawa Senators players, they've gotten their rookie game out of the way. What are you expecting from them tonight?
Well, Ross, first game of the playoffs, it's a big deal. The playoffs are very different from the regular season. Our guy, Mark Mathot, commented it's night and day going from regular season to playoff hockey. And now a lot of those guys, sure, it's just one game, but they've experienced it. You got to be able to put that past you. And you tweeted on Twitter, Ross, what adjustments do the Sens need to make to bounce back in Game 2? Almost all of the replies, and we got a lot of great replies from Sens fans, almost all of them mentioned the word discipline. The Toronto Maple Leafs were absolutely dominant on the power play, scoring 3 power play goals, and all of those power play goals scored within 10 seconds of those penalties taken by the Ottawa Senators. So if the Sens can stay out of the box, keep that 5-on-5 play as strong as it was in Game 1, they have a much better chance in Game 2.
We're going to get into the lineups. There were a couple absentees at the morning skate for the Ottawa Senators and some important stats going into tonight's game. Yesterday, we spoke about adjustments for the majority of the episode. So if you missed it, you can catch up on that wherever you get your podcast. Shout out to the everydayers out there making us your first listen. We appreciate all the citizens that jump in the postcast, that jump in the chat, that are with us every day. Of course, there's a postcast tonight. We will see you after a 7:30 puck drop. Note the start time, a little different than the rest of the series. Puck drop goes just after 7:30 at Scotiabank Arena. And you're not in trouble till you lose at home, Pilsy. However, the Toronto Maple Leafs have never, with this core, gone up 2-0 in a playoff series. They've been tied at 1 7 times, and they've been down 2-0 twice. So this could be uncharted waters for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And for Ottawa, it's about getting the confidence that you can beat them in the playoffs. And wouldn't that be something if they can bring home a split to the CTC?
Yeah, I think ultimately, Ross, if you would have told us at the start of this series that the Sens would split it heading back home, you wouldn't be stoked about that, but you would still feel like you're in a good spot. So as long as the Ottawa Senators put a much better effort tonight, stay disciplined, get better play from Linus Ullmark, have some of their stars step up. We're going to get into that later on in the show. And maybe some possible lineup adjustments. I think they can find a way to get the split and to come back to the nation's capital feeling good about themselves. Because that's a good thing too, right? Like Game 1, you win that, but then you lose Game 2. I would say the momentum shifts back to Ottawa, and then you're getting momentum swing your way and you're heading back home. That's a positive for the Sens.
Yes, and I promise that I will not be talking about the refs tonight unless they're worse than they were in Game 1. And watching the other games, they're letting so much go. You look at the physicality, especially in the St. Louis-Winnipeg series, and it just feels like they were calling that game like a regular season game, but Ottawa has to adjust. They cannot be taking 6 penalties that result in power plays for the Leafs. You cannot give them a 5-on-3 man advantage. As you saw, that is completely automatic. But when they do take a penalty, try to win that first face-off. At least kill off the first few seconds and get into your proper formation.
And Ross, too, just quickly on that, you cannot be finding ways to take penalties in your offensive zone. Like that was another thing, that a bunch of those penalties were taken when the Sens were in the O zone. You can't have that happen. It's such a momentum killer.
And you look at where there's already chaos online. Chris Johnson just tweeted out that Travis Hamonic looked poised to draw into the lineup. He's paired with Thomas Chabot. Well, that brings us to the absentees.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Jensen, Ridley Gregg not on the ice for practice, just shows Chris Johnson doesn't follow the Ottawa Senators. Nick Jensen not taking a morning skate is the least surprising thing that I've seen all series.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to read too much into that. Certainly not going to read too much into that. But yeah, no Jensen or Gregg in the morning skate in Toronto. But Cousins is skating on that the fourth line, and then Zetterlund. I'm not sure how this is going to play with the placeholders here, but he's slated on that third line there. So it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens come puck drop.
Yes, and we're going to wait for Travis Green to speak to the media in a matter of minutes. So why don't we start with the Toronto Maple Leafs expected lineup, because they had their optional morning skate earlier on today, and we know that Anthony Stolarz was going through his morning routine. There was some talk yesterday when he missed the practice for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Hey, was it when Ridley Gregg slid into him in the third period? He was kind of stretching himself out after that, but it looks like all systems go for Anthony Stolarz, who was good, not great, but good. And he made some high danger saves that Linus Ullmark didn't. He also let out a ton of rebounds. So not to skip ahead to keys to victory, but Ottawa's got to get to the inside, get second and third chances in the net area. Austin Matthews on the top line between Matthew Nyes and Mitch Marner. The second line of John Tavares is going to be centering Pontus Holmberg, who's moved up from the third line, and William Nylander. That was an in-game adjustment in game one for Craig Berube. Max Domi on the third line with Bobby McMahon and Nick Robertson. And the fourth line is Scott Lawton with Steven Lorenz and Kalle Järnkrok. On the back end, Jake McCabe with Chris Tanev, Morgan Riley with Brandon Carlo, Simon Benoit with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Mentioned that Stolarz starts in goal. Billsy at 5-on-5. You look at the numbers, and Ottawa carried a lot of the puck possession, a lot of the play, a lot of the offensive shot attempts, not necessarily the high danger chances, but who are you looking out for tonight in game two?
I'm going to be looking out for number 23, Matthew Nyes. Obviously, we know the core four players, they all had success in game one, but Matthew Nyes scored a goal as well, and he's just impressive in all areas of the ice. Like, he had that huge shot block, I believe it was on Thomas Chabot's slap shot, hit him right in the hand. You kind of thought that that would at least deter his game, and then he scores a goal net front battle with Artem Zub just a couple minutes later. Like, this guy is a gamer. He's got the size. He's got the net front presence. He plays a physical game. He's got an offensive touch as well. So I think he's a guy that, especially on a line with Matthews and Marner, Ross, the defensive coverage might want to draw themselves towards Matthews and Marner. Makes sense. Two very good players, but that's going to leave opportunities for Matthew Nyes, and I think you can't give him too much time and space.
Yeah, really good player. I hope he makes $15 million on his next contract. But no, jokes aside, he is a very solid player, and Ottawa's going to have to know where he is at all times. He found his way to the net for his goal on the power play in the third period. My lookout player is going to be Chris Tanev. I was told that he's the best shutdown defenseman in this series. Shot attempts when he was on the ice were very heavily favored in Ottawa's direction. He wasn't the shot blocking machine that I was told he would be. He and McCabe, they were on the ice a lot more than any other Leafs pair, but I didn't feel like Chris Tanev was impacting that game. No hits, no blocks. He was a +1 in the game and had one giveaway, one takeaway. So I'm just worried that that was just him getting his feet wet in the series, and they're going to be a lot better tonight. So if I'm the Senators, I'm looking out for the McCabe-Tanev pairing to really be better than they were. And if that's the case, Ottawa's going to have to work that much harder to get to the front of the net. But if you're going to go with a forward, I'll take a defenseman, and you got to be aware when Chris Tanev's on the ice tonight if you're the Sens. So big reason why is that key to victory, and we'll see if it can go the Senators' way. So that's how the Toronto Maple Leafs line up in tonight's game, and we will see in moments what Travis Green has to say for the Ottawa Senators. Let's get to those lineup notes and more stats and which Senator star needs to step up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. Pistachio Pillsy here. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts around. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the salt and pepper flavor. You'll find them in the purple bag. Ross loves the lightly flavored bag. And if you don't want to deal with the shells, you just want straight pistachios, check out the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether you're snacking at your desk during the postcast, you're on a road trip, Pillsy's pilgrimage to the nation's capital coming up tomorrow, or you just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to snack. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub, the place to go in Ottawa to watch road games in this series. And you can also get ready for the Senators Shuttle, games 3 and 4. You can get your tickets online, GLEBECentralPub.com. They are only running one shuttle for each of the games, so space is limited. Get your tickets online, GLEBECentralPub.com. Click the events page and get those tickets. Make sure to check off that Locked On Senators sent you. But the vibes were immaculate going into game 1 at the GCP. It was a full house, TV on, obviously the volume pumping, and they know that they are the home spot, the neighborhood pub in the heart of the Glebe that has Sens fans covered. And because you're a listener of Locked On Senators, let them know that we sent you. You'll get 10% off your order on a Senators game day, just like that. So go to the place where the vibes are free. That's the GCP, 779 Bank Street. Get the smash burger. It is unbelievable. Great food, awesome drinks, the staff, elite, and always an amazing atmosphere at the GLEBE Central Pub. So head to 779 Bank Street. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. It's the GLEBE Central Pub, the GCP, where the vibes are free. All right, Pillsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators. It is a 7:30 puck drop at Scotiabank Arena in downtown Toronto, the heart of enemy territory. The Senators are plus 140 on the money line going in to tonight's game. We talked yesterday about hopefully getting Nick Cousins in the lineup. I heard from a couple people in the DMs that he's not 100% and that it was not a coach's decision in game 1. He simply could not go. So we'll wait to hear from Travis Green to see what he has to say about his lineup. My guess, Billsy, is it's playoff time and he's not going to say a thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a well thought out answers from Travis Green in this one. I think he's going to be very blunt and short with the media, which is fine. Hey, you don't want to show your hand to the media and to the other team. It's that time of year. So we'll let Travis Green do his thing here. But I would love to see Nick Cousins get into the lineup. We talked about it. I think he certainly is the preferred player over Matthew Highmore on the fourth line. This is the exact reason why you brought Nick Cousins in. And now I know it could be injury concern. So we're not blaming anyone, coaching staff, player, or anything like that for him not getting in the lineup. But I want to see him out there for sure.
What do you think of this? A little interesting, if you ask me. Ridley Gregg not on the ice for morning skate. And instead of putting a placeholder there, the bottom 6 is now Pinto, Zetterlund, and Amadio, and then Gaudette between Nick Cousins and Matthew Highmore.
I think it's interesting for sure. I can't see Travis Green breaking up that third line, the shutdown line, but we talked about it, and I'm sure the coaching staff and Sean Tierney, the analytics department, is aware of what Fabian Zetterlund can bring if he gets more than 10 minutes and 49 seconds a night. He's getting a little head here, Ross, but I think he's going to be my locked on player because it's going to be very interesting. And I'll just keep this short. I'll go into it deeper once we pull the lines up, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see how he's utilized throughout the game based on the time of game and the score at that time of game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's just use TSN 1200 to do the Sens lines because they're live on location. Friend of the show, Dean Brown, on the Twitter for 1200. Stützle, Kachuk, Giroux, Cousins, Perron, Batherson. No changes in the top 6. And then we mentioned the bottom 6, Pinto, Zetterlund, Amadio, Gaudette, Cousins, and Highmore. On the back end, Sanderson, Zub, Shabbat, Hamonic, Clevin, and Martin Paolo. Nothing new. Seeing Nick Jensen miss a morning skate. So I'm not panicking about that at all. To me, that is a placeholder. I would have been much more perked up and curious if it was Clevin who Hamonic was playing with, but it looks like Green will stick with that bottom pair. Pilsy, your locked on player to watch in tonight's game.
All right, well, I'll get into it. It's Fabian Zetterlund. Like you mentioned, him being on that third line certainly is interesting. And we did see him moved up into the lineup as the Sens were trailing in game one. You got to find ways to get this guy minutes. Sure, only 2 goals with his time in the Sens in the regular season, but he had 17 goals with the San Jose Sharks. He's used to playing a top 6 role. I assume he was on the top power play when he was there. He scored 24 goals in previous year with the San Jose Sharks. This guy is not a fourth liner that's barely scraping double digits usually. That's not how he is effective, and probably not how he wants to be used, or the general manager, Steve Stais, when he traded for him, that this was not the plan for him to be down on the fourth line and barely getting used. Now he's getting second power play time, but I still want to see more from him. I love his aggressive play on loose pucks. And if Anthony Stolarz didn't have a knob on the end of his stick that looks like it's a cricket bat or something on the backside of his stick that stopped him from scoring, I already called the league. I talked to Gary Bettman. We're working on getting that looked at, but he would have had a goal there, and that would have been huge. So Fabian Zetterlund, my locked on player for tonight's game.
I'm going to go a different direction than where I had initially anticipated, because in the next segment we will discuss the top end players and who needs to step up. But to me tonight, it's Claude Giroux, the wily vet, the guy who lost 3 faceoffs that directly resulted in goals against. You know that he is as fiery of a competitor as anybody on this Ottawa Senators team. He's had great success in the regular season in his career against Toronto, 55 points in 53 games now, including game 1 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. He, to me, is an enormous part of the puzzle for what Ottawa is trying to build here. And for him, it's about using his vision. It's about being tough down low. I feel like he needs to win his board battles more than he was in game 1. He needs to come out with pucks, make smart reads, and get the puck into Tim Stützle's hands in scoring positions and have Brady get to the net. So if he's going to play on a line with the 2 most talented offensive players that the Ottawa Senators have, Claude Giroux at age 37 needs to be an impact player tonight.
Let me ask you this, Ross, and it works perfectly into our locked on players. A lot of people also in that tweet, what adjustments do the Sens need to make? A lot of people had get Fabian Zetterlund more ice time, and some of them even suggested doing that at the expense of Claude Giroux's ice time. And I know we talked about this a little bit before. How do you feel about that? Like if you move Giroux down, where do you move him though? Like that's not a guy you flip on the fourth line.
No, you can't put him on the fourth line. And he's played 3 seasons in Ottawa, over 200 games, and he has never not played in the top 6. It's just not happening.
He did spend a little bit of time on the third line in different parts, but yes, majority.
That was when they had the 2A, 2B. That was He's not playing 14 or less minutes tonight. He's also a huge part of the PK and the second power play unit. So he's going to get his touches, and I could see it 5-on-5 if maybe for a shift in the offensive zone. I was advocating for that yesterday to get Zetterlund those opportunities, but you're going to live and die by Claude Giroux in this playoff series as a top 6 player, and he needs to produce like it. So I think it's more on Claude Giroux to elevate his game rather than take away ice time from him. I think it's too late in the season to do that and to start experimenting with different players on that top line.
Yep, that's fair. Now, Fabian Zetterlund has had some time playing with Timmy, and he's had some time playing with top offensive players. So we'll see how that would go. But
yeah, who was the other winger when Zetterlund was on that line? It was Claude Giroux.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Yeah.
So Giroux's playing with Timmy. I think they really like. I know Timmy's done a lot better in the faceoff dot, but they really like having Giroux as a complementary piece on Tim Stützle's wing. So, like I said, it's about Claude Giroux elevating his play more than it is about taking away things from him in terms of his impact in the lineup. So that's my locked on player is going to be Claude Giroux tonight. Be watching him like a hawk. If Giroux gets a point, I think the Sens are in a good spot to win tonight's game. That's kind of, I'm not going to give a Levy lock on it, but I will say that Giroux is going to be a huge X factor in the result of tonight's game. Even in the faceoff dot, he can't be going 40%. No. Can't have your best faceoff guy being 40% and getting cleaned out by the other team's top faceoff guy. He's got to be able to win at least 50, hopefully more like 60, his season average, and Ottawa will be in a lot better place.
Yeah, I kind of think, Ross, what I would try, and this goes into your theory of in offensive zone faceoffs, taking Giroux off that line. How about getting Brady on those draws? And instead of trying to out-skill or out-time John Tavares, how about out-muscle him in the playoff dot, or the face-off dot for Brady Tkachuk? Like, that might be something that works. So I wouldn't mind trying that. And we'll see how that was a huge part of that game, was John Tavares dominating in the face-off dot. So how can they change?
The Ottawa Senators media and Toronto media, of course, are very interested in Claude Giroux as well. This is courtesy of TSN 1200 if you're watching on YouTube. Giroux is somewhere in that scrum.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. Oh, my God.
Remember when Dean Brown told me, he's like, yeah, I don't know. Scrums are different. We'll see how it goes. This is exactly what I knew would happen.
Yeah. Wow.
Should have got the spiked elbow pads there, Dino. On the other side, which Ottawa Senators star needs to step up in tonight's game? That conversation's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props.
Pillsy, what do we like tonight?
Well, for the Ottawa Senators, they're sitting at plus 130 money line. Ross, I believed it earlier in this episode. Yep. You said it was at plus 140. So
line's moving.
The line is moving right now, and FanDuel is doing an awesome promotion. It's called the Battle of Ontario Jackpot. $50,000 is in this jackpot. Bet on the first goal scorer for your share of bonus profit. So here's how it works. You claim it, and then you get a profit boost token of 30% betting on the first goal scorer of this game. And then I put my bet on Shane Pinto, Ross. If Shane Pinto scores the first goal in this game, me and everyone else on FanDuel that opted into this and bet Shane Pinto to be the first goal scorer, we each get our slice of the pie of that $50,000 jackpot in bonus bets. So what an exciting promotion by FanDuel. Get in on it today if you think you know who's going to score that first goal.
Pillsy, Fabian Zetterlund, anytime goal scorer tonight, plus 420.
Love it. So it's not just playoff basketball, playoff hockey as well. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
All right, Pillsy, it is Game 2 preview. Ottawa Senators in Toronto taking on the Maple Leafs, and it's rare for Ridley Gregg to miss morning skates. So I'm a little curious what's going on with Ridley Gregg. Obviously a pot stirrer and someone who you'd love to have in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, I'm not looking too much into this, Ross. Maybe it's just a bit of maintenance, or they're just... I feel like, Ross, it's like you got to rein in the bull a little bit. It's like, okay, Ridley, you had a good, eventful game, a goal, a controversial penalty up against the Leafs, Battle of Ontario, a lot of bad blood there. Why don't you just chill, relax a little, and then we'll get you wound up come game time again. So I'm deciding to be optimistic and not worry about Ridley Gregg getting into the lineup tonight.
All right, well, which Ottawa Senators stars need to have the greatest impact on tonight's game if the Sens are going to make it a 1-1 series as the venue changes to the CTC?
Well, I'm taking the low-hanging fruit here, Ross. We're a hashtag goalie-friendly show. I got Linus Ullmark's jersey still hanging in the case behind me. We have a game plan for our jerseys tonight, Ross. So you and I need to take some onus on our part in the Sens loss. We'll talk about that later on. But look, Anthony Stolarz outdueled Linus Ullmark for sure in game one. There is no debating that. Hello, Leafs fans listening to this. You heard me. I said it. We were confident about Linus Ullmark heading into this playoff series, claiming him as the better goalie up against either of the Leafs options. Stolarz, in one game, has proven that we were wrong on that one. But it's a minor setback for a major comeback for Linus Ullmark, in my opinion. He's got to figure out this narrative. This is a Vezina winning goalie who has the narrative of being terrible in the playoffs. This is a big deal for, I don't know if Linus Ullmark is a big legacy guy or anything like that, but this is big for him to shut up that narrative from the media. Stop having reporters ask him, well, you weren't very good in the playoffs in Boston. Do you think you can turn that around? We know he doesn't like that question. He kind of gave a long pause and said, I'm not worried about Boston. I'm worried about Ottawa. And then gave the reporter that asked him that a little extra time on the stare there. So you're the guy that gets to decide if that changes, Linus Ullmark, and we need him to be better than a 750 save percentage. I think that goes without saying. And Anthony Stolarz, the Sens are going to have to find a way to get past him. I think they kind of know the secret sauce to that, and they had success on it on one of their goals at least. So Linus Ullmark needs to keep this team in the game, and if he can shut the door early and allow the Sens to get a lead, I think that's going to have a major impact here. So, Ross, I know it's easy, I know it's obvious, but it has to be discussed. Linus Ullmark is one of the stars on this Ottawa Senators team that desperately needs to elevate his game.
I'm going to go with Tim Stützle. It would be easy for me to take Brady Tkachuk, who had 5 shots, 7 hits in game 1, but was not around the net as much as he typically is. But to me, Tim Stützle has to see what the Leafs score for, what those big dogs did, combining for 9 points. Austin Matthews with 2 assists, Marner and Nylander both with a goal, and Tavares had a goal as well. He needs to look at them and say, look, how I played last game was good enough for game 76 against the Columbus Blue Jackets. But against these top guys, when they're playing at their best, I need to know that I'm the best offensive weapon that the Ottawa Senators have, and he needs to be able to contribute. I thought he skated well through the neutral zone. That's something that Craig Berube said. The Leafs are going to try to take away time and space. He had some easy zone entries, but I don't want easy zone entries. I want those battles in front of the net, and I want Timmy to be kind of like he's never going to be the guy right at the net front jamming away. That's Brady's job on that line. But I want him hovering right around the perimeter of that goal mouth where if a loose puck comes out, bang, he can jump on it and put it away. I think he needs to have a shooter's mentality again in tonight's game. He did have 3 shots in last game and 9 hits, led the game in hits, Tim Stützle. And don't listen to Kevin Bieksa saying that he hit too much. That is complete.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be too physical in the playoffs, Ross.
Every other player, it's like, oh my God, you see Adam Lowry, you see Braden Shen, you see these guys hitting bodies. No, Timmy's hitting too much, apparently. Ridiculous. But he does need to be in and around scoring areas more than he was in last game. When he was out there against Austin Matthews at 5-on-5, the shot attempts were in Ottawa's favor and by a lot. But what wasn't in Ottawa's favor was scoring chances. When Timmy was out against Matthews, the shot attempts were 16-4 for Ottawa, but the expected goals were way down. Ottawa had 0.6 expected goals through 16 shot attempts. They need to really key in on getting to those danger areas, and Tim Stützle, to me, is going to be a big factor. So, I mean, I talk about Claude Giroux, I talk about Tim Stützle, everybody knows Brady Tkachuk. Ottawa's top line has to match the goal-scoring ability, whether it's on the power play or at 5-on-5 that we saw from the Leafs in game 1.
Yeah, especially Ross still being on the road and Craig Berube and the Leafs getting to choose their matchups with last change, right? Like you got to be able to produce with whoever you're up against. You don't get to decide what matchup you're getting. So that's where it's going to be huge for the Sens. And I really like the Sens neutral zone game. You talked about it. Timmy being able to enter the offensive zone with speed from the neutral zone. So let's just work on that O-zone pressure. They didn't get enough O-zone pressure for my liking. And if you want to create high danger scoring opportunities, that's typically how you do it. Create pressure in the O-zone, cycle the puck, wear down those defenders, get them tired, and then they make mistakes. They have quick mental lapses in judgment, and that's when you find that open guy for a split second, get it to him, and you get a big opportunity. So Tim Stützle and guys like David Perron that are going to be key in winning those board battles to keep offensive zone possession going, they're going to need to shine here. And I look, I don't want to say I feel confident, Ross, but the 6-2 loss in game 1 doesn't have me as down bad as if you told me before the series they were going to start with a 6-2 loss. Like there are ways to look at and spin zone and cope if you want to look at that game and see that the Ottawa Senators do have a chance here. And for all the Leafs fans saying, Leafs in 4, Leafs in 3. I think the Sens are going to find a way to extend the series. Let's just say that.
Well, let's hope so. I look back to 2017, Game 5 in Pittsburgh. Ottawa lost 7-0 in that game.
Yeah.
And they bounced back and win Game 6, 2-1. And they didn't even score first in that game. Pittsburgh got the first goal. Ottawa scored on a power play, Bobby Ryan. And then we know Mike Hoffman posting in to win that game. So to me, momentum is within a game in a playoff series. I don't think it carries game to game. And maybe that's not a good thing for Ottawa because they carried a lot of the play at 5-on-5, but they need to regroup, reset, and I think they need to bring it to the Leafs better in the first period than the Leafs did. And you could say the jitters, 13 guys making their playoff debuts and everything, but the Leafs were by far the most physical team in the first period. And then they got their high danger chances where OEL walks in from the point untouched. Marner gets a breakaway untouched. The Sens need to be more structured, I would even say, to not allow those chances in transition where it burns them, because other than the power play, that's the biggest reason why the Leafs were able to win that game, was being able to take advantage of open space on the ice and take advantage of scoring opportunities. So my keys to victory is going to be tighten up the structure, especially on the PK, win some faceoffs and get some early clears in penalty kills. And the big boys have to get around the net. I'm looking at David Perron as a guy who I'm going to be betting on as an anytime goal scorer for tonight. I think that if Ottawa's going to have any chance to win this game, they're going to have to convert on the power play, get in dirty areas, and get some high danger looks that they bury in the back of the net.
Yeah, agreed. And look, David Perron, he has more playoff games than Giroux, right?
Perron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, but David Perron, Claude Giroux, these are guys we're highlighting, Ross. These are the guys with playoff experience that the Senators knew they were going to have to bring veteran players like them into this core to help those guys without the experience. Let's see that experience shine here in Game 2.
105 for David Perron, 96 playoff games for Claude Giroux.
So pretty close.
And you know who has the third most playoff games on the Ottawa Senators player roster? Nick Cousins. Hopefully we can see Nick Cousins play tonight. He's played 63 career playoff games. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Yeah, final thoughts for me, Ross, is I teased it before, but look, we, depending on how superstitious of a fan you are, Ross, we all know we got to do our part. I was debating what jersey am I going to wear to watch the game. Then I saw you tweet out you were rocking a black Ottawa Senators jersey.
You see what I was wearing under it, though?
Yes, the, what is it, 07?
Eastern Conference Champions t-shirt.
Nice. And then you had the Sens hat, so you're decked out in your Sens jammies. Love it. But, Ross, when I saw that, I couldn't believe it, because you are a guy that is obsessed with matching the jerseys with the jerseys. Go back, and I challenge everybody, go back and look at all our thumbnails, and the Ottawa Senators will be wearing, in the picture of our episode thumbnail, will be wearing the jersey that they will be wearing in that game. Ross is obsessed with matching those up. And Game 1, you went against your own superstitions and wore black when the Sens wore white. Ross, we can't be doing that. It was our first playoff game in a long time, too.
Are you not going to ask me why?
Why? Yeah. Great question, Ross. Why did you do that?
Because Brady Tkachuk, I have on the black jersey, and he's the only active player on the roster whose jersey that I have right now.
We gotta change that. What are you doing with only one active player's jersey, Ross? Come on.
I know. I got the reverse retro, no name on the back, and then I was gonna put Claude Giroux on that one, but it looks so good in the background of the show, and the way it folds with numbers on the back wouldn't fold as nicely. So I had to go deep into the dungeon for that one. But you're right, I got to clean it up. Tonight I will be rocking the white Daniel Alfredsson jersey.
Okay.
He's on the bench.
Yep,
we need a little Alfie magic. I might take that stick that I have, Igor Sokolov's stick that's snapped in half, and I might just fake throw it at my window just to get a little Battle of Ontario juices like Alfie did after Sundin snapped his stick, whipped it into the crowd. Dangerous play. Got fined for that.
Yeah, you can't be doing that.
Yeah, I will be wearing white tonight, and I would encourage Ottawa Senators fans, rock the white tonight, and we'll get back to black Game 3.
And Ross, I'm doing the same. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got my white Linus Ullmark jersey in there. Everybody knows the biggest prestigious honor a current Ottawa Senators player can have is being displayed in Pillsy's podcast studio jersey case. So this is going to be a mix of things, Ross. It's going to be accountability. I'm taking Allmark out of there. Certainly, he did not earn that honor game one, but it's not all punishment. I'm taking it out of there to wear it, to show support, and then when he has a good game, it's going back in there. So that's the LOSP jersey play. Let us know what your play is in the comments.
Is the white Kachuk jersey going back in there in the meantime? You can't leave it black. You can't leave it blank. You got to put a jersey in there.
That's true. Yeah, I think, I don't want to leave it blank, so I'll probably put it in there. But Ross, I was debating putting the white Kachuk jersey on, but it didn't feel quite right because I haven't had time to get the C on it yet. I got it as part of a off-season sale. So the C is not on there. So I felt it would have been blasphemous to rock a Brady jersey without the C on it. So that's why I held off on that one.
Okay, yeah, let us know what your fit check is going into game 2 tonight. Senators taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Still no quotes coming in from Travis Green, so we'll tweet that out at Sens Central, where we will be live posting throughout the game, so get in on the conversation there. And of course, the postcast right after the Ottawa Senators take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Game 2 of their best of 7. The Leafs core has been in 9 playoff series already and never led 2-0. We cannot allow this to be the first time they accomplish that feat. It's not going to be easy. Sens have to be disciplined and be harder in dirty areas, and that is your keys to victory. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. If you enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up on YouTube. You can leave a comment in any podcast platform. It all goes to helping the show grow. We appreciate all the everydayers out there making us your first listen. The citizens have been riding with us through all the years of despair. Guys, it's a playoff game day. Let's go. These aren't promised. They're earned. Let's enjoy the moment. Let's have some fun. And hopefully the Ottawa Senators can come out on top in tonight's game. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.